Alright, so you've built your app, you've checked it, you've tested it, you've made sure there's no bugs, you've shown it to friends and family, and they're convinced that it's a fantastic thing and well worth being on the Google Play Store. It's now time to distribute your app. So let's see as quickly as possible how we can do that. So first off, I would advise you to go to developer.android.com and then tap the distribute button, and when you've got a few minutes, just have a read through of some of the articles here that are relevant for you. There's a lot of advice there on how to engage your users, how to get new users, how to earn money from your app, and to make sure that your app is not banned from Google Play for doing something that it shouldn't. But assuming that you've done all of that and you're ready to go, it's then time to jump over to the developer console. Now, you'll need to sign in with your Google account. If you don't have one, then create one. If you don't have a Google developer account, then you'll need to create one. And that's just a case of going to this screen and then clicking that you're willing to agree with the distribution agreement and then paying the $25. So I'm just going to sign in with a different account, so I don't need to do that. And then when you're logged in, you can add a new application and then enter the details here. So I'm going to use our Instagram app as an example. I'll just call it Instagram by Rob. Obviously, I'm not going to complete the process and actually get this on the App Store. And you can either start by uploading the APK or preparing the store listing. I'll do the APK part. The APK is an Android package, which is just a file that contains all of the files that your app needs to run. And you can get that directly from Android Studio. So here I've got my Instagram app up and running. And then if I want to get the APK to upload to Google Play, I click on Build Variants on the left here. And then I switch from Debug, which we're working on by default, to Release. To create a release APK, we need to go through a process called signing, which essentially just verifies that this and any future version of this app are definitely created by the same user that created the first version. So it's an authentication process essentially. And we do that up here in the build menu and then generate signed APK. And then we'll choose the Pass Starter project. Obviously it goes without saying as well, if you do use the Pass Starter project as the basis of a real app, obviously make sure that that's properly changed to the correct name of the app. And then we need to create a new key, unless you've got an existing one, which you probably don't. So I would just select a location on your system to store that, and I'm just going to put it in my documents folder. You probably want to create a special folder if you're going to be doing a lot of these. And I'll call it Instagram Android Key Store. So I'm going to put in just the password as password. Obviously, you shouldn't do that. So now this is the information about the key store, and this is the information about the key. So I'll call this Instagram Android Key. And I'll use the same password. You'll probably want to do something a little bit more secure. And then just fill in the details here. So just something like that. All right, then click OK, and that will create your key store, and it will fill in the passwords as well. And it's not entirely secure to remember passwords, but I'll do that here for the moment. Then we'll click Next and enter a master password for that key store. Then we generate our signed APK. We don't need to do any custom flavors here. We just want a standard release APK. and then that will build the app in the usual way, but instead of running it on the simulator, it will create an APK for us. And then you can see we've got our generated signed APK. So let's reveal that in the Finder or Windows Explorer if you're on Windows, and you can see there it is. So it's inside the app folder, which is there. So you've got the app folder, and then within that I've got Path Starter Project, and then the APK is right there. So let's jump back over and upload this APK. Here we go. So upload your first APK, and then we can drag it there. So I'm just going to drag it in right there, and that will do a processing and check that it's all correctly signed. And I've got an error there because someone's already used the Path Starter Project on Google Play. That's not a major problem. Your app, of course, will have its own unique package name, or at least if it doesn't, you'll need to change it if you get this message. All right, so I'm going to cancel that, but let's assume that you've got your APK in there now. The next step is to go to the store listing and just put all the details in there. So most of it's fairly straightforward. You've got a short description, a long description. The graphical assets I can show you how to create very easily. So go back over to Android Studio and change the build variant back to debug, and then we can run it in the usual way. If the build variant is on release, then it will just develop a new APK for you. So you need to move it back to debug if you actually want to run the app again. And here we are. So here's our nice main Instagram screen. So to get a screenshot of that, all we need to do is click on the camera over here next to the logs, and then that will take a little while, but it will import a screenshot from the device. And the great thing is that that will be top quality as well. So it'll be really high resolution, and you don't need to do any nasty screenshotting or anything like that. Here we go. So you can see it's pretty huge. You've got a few fancy options up here that you can put a phone frame in as well. You can probably just about see that if I zoom out. So you can put it in a phone frame, which is really handy. You can even choose which phone you want for your frame. There you go. You can pop a shadow in. Like that. You can maybe just see that at the bottom. Zoom out a little bit more, so you've got a little shadow there, and you can even pop some fancy screen glare on there as well. So that's great for the next chapter when you want to be marketing your apps, but not ideal for the App Store. So I'll just save that as screenshot 1. And then for the App Store, I would definitely recommend no phone or glare or shadow or anything, just a really straightforward screenshot. So we'll do that now. There we go. So I'm going to save that in the same place. We'll call it SS2. Okay. Now going back over here, you'll notice that there's a maximum length of 3000 pixels. Our number of pixels was less than that. I think it was about 2000. So I'm just upload that as it is. So SS2, and then that will crunch the picture and resize it as necessary for all the different sizes that it might be needed. Okay, then you've got the high-res icon. This is any 512 by 512 image with an alpha, which means that the background should be transparent. You'll need something like Photoshop to create something like that. If you're not artistically inclined, I recommend getting someone else to do that for you. You could get it super cheap on something like Fiverr.com, or you could pay a little bit more and probably get a better result depending on your needs. Then you need a feature graphic as well, which again is any kind of image that will make your app stand out on the App Store. And then there's some optional alternative sizes that you don't need as well. And you've also got an optional YouTube video URL. Then you just choose your various categories. So all pretty straightforward here. And then an email address is required. And we do have an option for a privacy policy here. If you're doing anything that actually stores user data, you should definitely have a privacy policy. But if it's just a straightforward app like a simple game that doesn't store any information, then you can choose not to submit a privacy policy. Okay, so then you save those settings and move on. And the rest of it's fairly straightforward. So content rating, you just choose the various ratings for the content that's in your app. So most likely it'll be suitable for all, but you do need to be a bit careful if you're displaying web content, which could potentially contain content which is unsuitable for some people. Then you can choose to be hosted in one of these particular areas, so education, work, or families. Choose to set your price. And notice if you do want to have a paid app, you need to set up a merchant account. I'm not going to go through the whole process of that, but it's fairly straightforward. It's just a matter of putting all your details and bank details, etc. on to Google Play. Then you choose your countries that you want to distribute into. If you're Android Wear compliant, then you would tick that box. Similarly for Android TV and Auto that we haven't covered here. Here again, we've got those options for families, work, and education. And you've got some options there if you want to opt out of marketing, certify that the app meets the content guidelines. If you're not sure, definitely read those tips and make sure that your app doesn't break any US export laws. All right, and that's it. So you can add your in-app products here if you want to do some in-app purchases and set up some other services. But other than that, those 4 sections are all you need to complete, and then it's just a matter of submitting and clicking Publish App. That's it. So good luck. I would definitely recommend setting yourself a challenge of getting an app published by a certain date. It doesn't really matter if it's any good, although obviously it would be great if it was. Really, you'll learn so much from the whole process of getting it out there, getting user feedback and making it better. You really will learn so much more doing it that way than working for years and months on your own on your computer without showing your app to anyone. So it's scary, but well worth doing it. If you do manage it, then just let me know. Send me a tweet and I'll happily retweet you along to my followers. Best of luck.